The psychological effects of solitary confinement have been linked to anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts.
I would say I committed suicide about 5 or 6 times.
Okay, you attempted suicide 5 to 6 times?
Yes.
While still in prison?
Yes.
Khalif Browder spent months in solitary confinement at Rikers Island without being convicted of a crime before ultimately taking his own life a few months after his release. Prison officials use solitary confinement as a punishment for a variety of infractions, from violence with other inmates to drug use or possession. That said, solitary confinement practices have always been hard to track because many state corrections departments don't log the information, and the practice can have different names in different states. Despite the controversy surrounding the practice, thousands of prisoners across the country still spend 23 hours of their day locked away without human interaction. The most recent comprehensive study of solitary confinement found 67,000 prisoners were kept in some sort of restrictive housing in 2015. That's being locked in a cell for at least 22 hours a day for 15 days or more. In Louisiana, Utah, and Nebraska, more than 10% of the respective prison populations were kept in solitary in 2015. Texas, on the other hand, kept its prisoners in solitary the longest. Of the nearly 3,000 prisoners nationwide held in solitary for more than 6 years, more than half are in Texas.
There should be no such thing as solitary confinement.
Dr. Nika Jones-Tapia is a psychologist who has worked in corrections for nearly 12 years in Chicago. In 2015, she was named warden of Cook County Jail.
We're now going to have a psychologist running the Cook County Jail. We couldn't be prouder, we couldn't be happier. And I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Nika Jones.
Making her the first mental health professional to head up a prison or jail in the U.S. That's according to the Cook County Sheriff's Office. Dr. Tapia says she recognizes the dangers of solitary confinement and because of that, wanted to make sure Cook County handled things differently.
We said that we're no longer going to house people who had done some egregious behavior in their cell for 23 hours a day. We're going to discipline them for their behaviors nonetheless, but we're going to have them to come out of their cell for a few hours a day. Out of, let's say, a 12 to 14 hour day, they're out for 5 hours. That was remarkable.
Along with cutting down on the isolation for inmates, Dr. Tapia instituted group interaction with correction officers, with the hope that the inmates would gain something from their time together.
Why not have them commune with each other? There's nothing against communing and fellowshipping, but what we found, and this is where the psychologist in me recognized something that we could do different. Why not put our staff inside of the tier so that instead of them feeding off of the negative behaviors of each other, then hopefully our staff can model some positive behaviors. We saw staff that would sit at a picnic table with inmates all around them, engaged, listening, they're learning about each other. But then we saw the incidents started to plummet.
Despite solitary confinement still being a widespread practice across the country, researchers say the tide has shifted amongst prison directors in recent years. While solitary confinement was once viewed as central to prisoner management, now organizations like the Association of State Correctional Administrators and the American Correctional Association are pushing to at least limit the practice.